Good evening, everyone. We're glad you're with us this evening. Our 4-part Zoom series this year is grounded in the work of Joanna Macy, who has developed ways to approach the overwhelming circumstances of a global nature, not by solving them or bypassing them, but by thoughtful, intentional, spiritual, and political engagement. Macy explains that we're living in the time of the great turning, when our choices, actions, and attitudes are essential to create and sustain a right relationship with the planet. Joanna developed the spiral shown here as an open invitation to a spiritual practice in hard times or overwhelming circumstances. Our thoughts and activities in each session of this series will be centered around the 4 themes of this spiral: gratitude, honoring our pain, seeing in new ways, and then going forth. Exploring this spiral is best done in a group, in community, as we are here tonight. We ask that everyone honor the working agreement shown here as we delve into the spiral together. And the parts of the working agreement are: speak for yourself, start sentences with I. Bring your presence and participation, we want you to speak up. Ask before sharing anything offered here to anyone outside the group afterward, as our stories are our own. The most important thing is that we hear one another and experience being heard as we consider ourselves a community of practice.
And so we ask, what is ecological spirituality? Over the next few slides, let's take a look at what some of the experts say. Jonathan Sachs says that the great faiths teach a different kind of wisdom: reverence in the face of creation, responsibility to future generations, and restraint in the knowledge that not everything we can do, we should do.
Hope Francis says, ecological spirituality springs from a profound ecological conversion and helps us to discover God in all things, both in the beauty of creation and in the sighs of the sick and the groans of the afflicted, aware that the life of the Spirit is not dissociated from worldly realities.
Krzysztof Capra says, ecology and spirituality are fundamentally connected because deep ecological awareness ultimately is spiritual awareness.
Syed Hossein Nasser wrote, the ecological crisis is only an externalization of an inner malaise and cannot be solved without a spiritual rebirth of humanity.
Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh says, the world is a living being to which we belong. The world is part of our own self, and we are a part of its suffering wholeness. Until we go to the root of our image of separateness, there can be no healing. And the deepest part of our separateness from creation lies in our forgetfulness of its sacred nature. which is also our own sacred nature.
Leonardo Boff writes, in terms of eco-spirituality, love leads us to identify ever more with Earth. For love is the great unifying and integrating power of the universe. After all that we have learned of the new cosmology, we must think of ourselves as Earth. We can be one with the Spirit and ultimately with God.
And finally, Rabbi Daniel Nevins prays, O Master of the universe, in whose hand is the breath of all life and the soul of every living person, grant us the gift of Shabbat, a day of rest from all our labors. Fill us with your goodness, that we may attest to your deeds. Strengthen us to become your faithful partners, preserving the world for the sake of future generations.
As we further explore the meaning of ecological spirituality, let us take a few moments to view this brief video by Indigenous author, lecturer, and scientist Robin Wall Kimmerer, called The Honorable Harvest.
If I could choose just a single element of the traditional teachings that we're called to pick up, it would be the teachings of the honorable harvest, which were taught us by the plants, who give us everything that we need. It's a covenant of reciprocity between humans and the living world, a very sophisticated ethical protocol. One of the first steps of the honorable harvest is to understand that the lives that we are taking are the lives of generous beings, of sovereign beings. And in order to accept their gift, we owe them at least our attention. To care for them, we must know what they need. And at the very minimum, we should know their names. And yet, the average American can name over 100 corporate logos and 10 plants. Is it a surprise that we have accepted a political system that grants personhood to corporations and no status at all for wild rice and redwoods? The protocols for the honorable harvest are not really written down, but if they were, it would look something like this. When you get to the woods, you don't just start grabbing everything in sight. We're taught never to take the first plant that you see, and that means you'll never take the last. This is a prescription with inherent conservation value. And then if we encounter another plant, we ask permission. I've always been taught to address that plant, to introduce myself, and tell it what it is that I have come for. If you're going to take a life, you have to be personally accountable for it. I know there are places where if you talk to a plant, they think you are crazy, but in our way, it's just good manners. If you're going to ask, you have to listen for the answer. You can listen in different ways, pragmatically, intuitively. Look around, see whether those plants have enough to share. And if the answer is no, you go home. For we remember that they don't belong to us. And taking without permission is also known as stealing. And the Honorable Harvest counsels that we also take in such a way that does the least harm and in a way that benefits the growth of the plant. Use everything that you take. It's disrespectful of the life that's given to waste it. The next tenet of the honorable harvest is to share it with others, human and non. The earth has shared generously with us, so we have to model that behavior in return. And a culture of sharing, we know, is a culture of resilience. Plant gatherers often leave a spiritual gift behind, but it can also be a material gift, weeding, caretaking, spreading seeds, helping those plants to flourish. We give songs, we give ceremony, we give our respect, we give fertilizer. Every breath that you take is a breath that was made for you by plants. on the water that you drink, whether you're in an urban setting, whether you're on a remote mountaintop, we still are recipients of those gifts. And if we take the time to be grateful, that brings us into that state of humility, of understanding that we are not at the top of a biological hierarchy, that in fact we are the younger brothers of creation.
And let's just take a moment to ponder this question in our hearts.
The first part of the spiral is grounding ourselves in gratitude. If we're to face the dire circumstances of our time or of our own personal lives, both the facts and the emotions, we will be able to do so more resiliently if we start by grounding ourselves in gratitude. And we do this with intention. Gratitude is not an innate talent, but a skill that can be learned and grown. Gratitude is not dependent on external circumstances. Connecting with a sense of gratitude while available to all must also be practiced in order to be available. Fear, anxiety, and a sense of scarcity can make it more difficult to access, but not impossible. Practicing allows a kind of spiritual gratitude muscle to grow and strengthen. Here are some quotes for us to ponder about gratitude. The second part of the spiral is honoring our pain. If we were to stop at the first point of the spiral, we might feel good, but not for long and not as deeply as possible. Joanna Macy tells us that to be able to move and shift out of stuck places, both emotionally and intellectually, we must do the hard work of facing complex, difficult emotions. We must honor our pain by naming it, even feeling it. It's in doing so that we're part of creating liberation from it, dissipating the power of pain to contort our behaviors into ugly or harmful shapes. In our culture, we do avoidance of pain really well. The second part of the spiral doesn't come easy, but it's crucial. Finding and creating both safe and brave space to be able to give shape and name to your pain, especially when this is done in community, will allow transformation to take place. We're a part of a great collective existence that holds pain, but also holds other possibilities.
The more separated we become from Earth, the more hostile we become to the feminine. We disown our passion, our creativity, and our sexuality. Eventually, the Earth itself becomes a baneful place. And so we take a look as we honor our pain at a poem called Reverse Creation, written many years ago by Bernard Beckman. And in the end, we destroyed the heaven that was called Earth. The Earth had been beautiful until our spirit took over it and destroyed all things. And we said,
Let there be darkness, and there was darkness. And we liked the darkness, so we called the darkness security. And we divided ourselves into races and religions and classes of society. And there was no morning and no evening on the seventh day before the end. And we said,
let there be a strong government to control us in our darkness. Let there be armies to control our bodies so that we may learn to kill one another neatly and efficiently in our darkness. And there was no evening and no morning on the sixth day before the end. And we said,
let there be rockets and bombs to kill faster and easier. Let there be gas chambers and furnaces to be more thorough. And there was no evening and no morning on the fifth day before the end. And we said,
let there be drugs and other forms of escape. For there is this constant annoyance, reality, which is disturbing our comfort. And there was no evening and no morning on the fourth day before the end. And we said,
let there be divisions among the nations, so that we may know who is our common enemy. And there was no evening and no morning on the third day before the end. And finally, we said,
let us create God in our image. Let some other God compete with us. Let us say that God thinks as we think, hates as we hate, and kills as we kill. And there was no morning and no evening on the second day before the end. And we said,
on the last day, there was a great noise on the face of the earth. Fire consumed the beautiful globe, and there was silence. The blackened earth now rested to worship the one true God. And God saw all that we had done. And in the silence, over the smoke ruins,
God wept.
And now, let us ask our Creator to protect our earth through this prayer of petition. Kindly join me in responding, Creator God, hear our prayer. Those who trust in you are like trees planted by streams of water. Bless fruit trees with abundant harvests. Protect rainforests from destruction. Restore land that has eroded after deforestation. Resurrect woodlands after forest fires.
Creator God, hear our
prayer. Holy are you. Reveal your splendor in fiery sunsets and in deep blue twilights. Teach us to recognize you in the beauty of our natural world.
Creator God, hear our prayer.
You created the entire universe and called it good. Hinder those who would cause further destruction to our planet's fragile ecosystems, and augment the calls of those who advocate for thoughtful stewardship of Earth's resources.
Creator God, hear our prayer.
We pray for Earth and all her creatures. Protect wilderness places and all plant and animal species that call them home. Sustain farmers and all laborers who work the land and harvest the fruits of its abundance. Guard against famine and disease.
Creator God, hear our prayer.
Teach us to live in humility on earth. Curb arrogance that leads to destruction of natural resources and disregard for future generations. Inspire the work of scientists who urge us to live in harmony with your creation.
Creator
God, hear our
our
prayer.
prayer. The third part of the spiral is seeing with new eyes. In other words, seeing in new ways. If we equip ourselves with the protection of gratitude, and if we've journeyed into the land of honoring our pain, what we just might find on the other side is a new way of beholding our circumstance, new ways that generate healing and move us away from harm of ourselves or others. Leaning into our connection with others, we can consider new perspectives, help us see in new ways, help us entertain what may well be impossible, but may shed light on other actual possibilities. And now we'd like to share a humorous video, which we hope you'll enjoy, and it has a great message. It's called Nature RX.
Do you find yourself longing for the apocalypse? I did. I was looking for a reason to live. Hi. Are you feeling tired, irritable, stressed out? Well, you might consider nature.
From the people that brought you Getting Outside comes prescription strength Nature, a non-harmful medication shown to relieve the crippling symptoms of modern life.
Nature's recommended for humans of all ages, and it's great for pets too.
Nature can reduce cynicism, meaninglessness, anal retentiveness, and murderous rage. In clinical studies, Nature is proven to decrease work-induced catatonia.
Caution. Nature may cause you to slow down, quit your job, or seriously consider what the you're doing with your life.
If you are overly cynical, jaded, or emotionally numb, you may need to increase your dose of Nature. Do you have trouble being even mildly uncomfortable? Nature may not be right for you. Side effects may include spontaneous euphoria, taking yourself less seriously, and being in a good mood for no apparent reason.
So ask your doctor if nature is right for you.
And after that little bit of humor, we move on to our guided meditation. During the past 3 spiritual experiences, George read a meditation, but this time we chose to use a meditation called At the Still Point, which is inspired by Pope Francis's Laudato Si.
Pope Francis writes that an integral ecology includes taking time to recover a serene harmony with nature, contemplating the Creator who lives among us and surrounds us, whose presence must not be contrived, but found, uncovered. Pause for a few minutes at the still point and ponder this question: where in nature do you find this presence? Is there a particular geographical place where you felt this connection? Do you find yourself returning to this place? Is there something in nature that helps you make this eco-spiritual connection? And that's what we can share in our small groups.
And so Kathy will take a minute to place us in small groups. Okay, I think we are all back. This is the time that we take a few minutes. If anyone would like to share some of the wisdom from your small group into the larger group, we would love to hear your wisdom. So if you'd like to share, I think we're small enough, we're about 16. Just raise your hand and with total confidence, please feel free to share. Yes, Damon Wagner Fields.
I'm Sue Wagner Fields.
Okay, I'm just reading your name underneath the.
Yes.
Okay, Sue, please share.
I guess my return to spot would be Middle Creek Wildlife Refuge, especially during the snow geese migration in the end of February. The just total amazing sight of the snow geese flying perfectly synchronized and swirling around, and hearing the tundra swans with their beautiful calls. And of course the eagles are always around, but those snow geese are just always, snow geese and the swans are always awe-inspiring for me.
And one of the amazing things there is that you see people from all over the world.
Wow.
You hear Chinese and German, Swedish,
Amish.
yeah. They have the biggest scopes, the Amish.
And there's probably Biden people and Trump people all there enjoying the wildlife together.
Wonderful. That is great. Thank you. Anyone else? Paul?
I just wanted to say that in our group, one of the things that came up is about the idea of thin places. It was mentioned a couple of times by a couple of people, and nature really provides that. And it makes me aware that we need to live in harmony with nature so that we can keep those places and maintain that relationship with God and our surroundings.
Thank you, Paul. Vince?
First of all, I have a question for Susan. When you were talking about Middle Creek, was that in Delaware?
No, it's the corner of Berks and Lebanon. It's actually Lebanon
Lancaster.
County. Is it Lancaster County?
Yeah, Lancaster and Lebanon.
Okay, thank you.
Northern Lancaster, southern Lebanon County, right at the border there.
Kleinfeltersville.
And I guess the insight that I had from listening in my group, and Sue and Damon were in that group as well, was the different, geographically different places that we were coming from. So Australia, Indiana, Pennsylvania, New England, it seemed like there are places everywhere.
Thank you, Vince. Anyone else? Sharing a little bit of your wisdom.
I'm not sure if this is wisdom, Donna, but
It is.
I find it's interesting that we're all mammals. So, and sort of a follow-up to Vince's comment, it's not surprising to me that we all find a special place in nature, no matter where we're born or nurtured and grow or wind up spending the bulk of our life, because without nature as mammals, we would perish.
Thank you, Kathy. Anyone else? The last word. Or it could be the next to the last word of wisdom.
In our group, Donna, Kathy and I shared our a love for water, and whether it's the ocean or streams. And Lori really, she reflected on how in taking a course, a watercolor art course, it really opened her eyes to a new way of seeing. That suddenly she was noticing clouds that she had not noticed before. So, that aspect of having something that you do open you up to a new way of seeing seemed rich to me, seemed insightful.
Wow. Thank you, Bill. Patricia, did you have your hand up?
Yes, as I was telling my group, I go through the local Gorgas Park and pick up trash usually once a week. I was going through today and went down into an area that's all bushy. Someone has actually started a little fire pit there, lots of rocks to sit on. But actually back in the bushes, I found someone's whole wardrobe, from their underwear, their slacks, their t-shirt, their hoodie. And it made me realize there are many different ways that people really enjoy our natural wildness, even in the city. Who knows what goes on back there, but somebody must have been having a good time.
Or a homeless
Or a
person.
homeless person, yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. Thank you, Patricia.
Or maybe that person in the video that went jumping into the water.
Very good. All right, let us move on, looking at the time to, Kathy, do I need to reshare my screen? It looks like.
I think you might need to do that, Donna.
Okay, let's hope that it works. Can you see this?
Yes, but you need to go back up to the small display settings button. There you go. And then, is there sound?
No, I am, hang on one second. Okay. George? Are you seeing my screen, Kathy?
Yes,
George is
perfect.
muted.
Perfect.
Okay, George.
George, you're muted.
Oh, thank you. I'm not sure how that happened. The fourth and last part of the spiral is called going forth. With the first 3 points of the spiral, we're cultivating resilience, building stamina, and growing emotional and spiritual intelligence. The fourth point on the spiral is where we take what we've integrated as individuals and as a group practicing together and apply it to our lives, to our communities, and to society. The hope is that in going forth, you've been strengthened so that you can be of service to what Joanna calls the great turning, that you might now embody the courage and creativity that's required of all of us in this time of crisis, in this time of opportunity. Enjoy these quotes of hope and encouragement.
we'd like to close this evening with a wonderful song by Earth Mama Joyce Rouse. It's called Green Christmas, but it really celebrates all of the holidays of this wonderful winter season. And so we close. I ask you to look at the words. I ask you to let your heart sing and dance and celebrate with our earth and with all peoples who celebrate whatever holidays they celebrate during this wonderful time.
I wish you a green Christmas with boughs of holly and a wreath naturally, a little sprig of mistletoe to laugh about with Mr. Ho Ho Ho, and plenty of earthly goodies to eat. I wish you a very green Christmas where nothing is wasted and the wrappings are true. Every present you receive doesn't harm the forest or roughly and brings peace on earth and peace for the earth. I wish you a green Christmas where every gift and greeting comes straight from the heart. A flock of chicks or a hive of bees in someone's honor to a family. Who knows what traditions you might start? I wish you a very green Christmas with all of the wonders of a bright eastern star. A long walk by a waterfall, all the very best gift of all, peace on earth, peace for the earth. I wish you a very greenest Christmas, even if you're surrounded by snow or by sand. Whatever holiday you celebrate, I honor your belief and think that's great. Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, Ramadan, or Watan, or Chinese New Year, I still wish you a very green Christmas with gratitude for every sweet breath of air. Joy and laughter with the ones you love, a pear tree, a turtle doves, but most of all peace on earth, and peace for the earth. Who but a baby could teach us to see? We're all one big family. We need peace
This Zoom program is the last in our 2022 series. We want to thank Kathy Habrowski for her assistance tonight. And we're also thrilled to have our new executive director here with us tonight, Katie Ruth. And I believe she'd like to say hello to you. So I'll turn it over to Katie for a minute.
Thank you, George. I want to say thank you to Donna and George for leading us through this program over the year, and also to thank each of you for being here with us this evening. I was reading a column by one of my favorite authors and activists this week, Adrienne Marie Brown, and she was reflecting on the idea of endings and apocalypse, and also talking about just how, as biodiversity has decreased, we've also watched a loss of our wonder. And so she invited people to think about how perhaps the way that we move towards a more connectedness to the earth is by re-engaging our sense of wonder. So that has been at the front of my mind as I've been here participating with you this evening. And I hope that this short practice and time together was meaningful and helpful as we move into this busy holiday season. I am the new executive director at Pennsylvania Interfaith Power and Light, and we're doing lots of exciting things. I'm not going to take up space right here and now to tell you all about it, but stay tuned as we continue to expand and grow our programs and share some of the different new programs and things that will be starting up in the new year. So just want to thank you again and turn it back over to Donna and to George.
Thank you all for attending tonight, and we want to wish you a blessed holiday season, a blessed December, and hope if we continue with programs like these that you'll consider joining us again. Have a great night.
Thank you, everyone.